everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Yadi and this is Yadi Angel Art. Today we're going to talk about some inking tips and tricks to help beginners get started, and at the end I'll also show you an Inktober speed paint. Let's get started. So before I get into the main tips and tricks for inking, I thought I'd go over some materials that I personally used in this video, and I'll include them in the description below. Okay, so beyond tools, my next tip would be to practice hatching and incorporate that into your pieces. So hatching, and I'll show you some examples here on the screen, hatching is basically creating a textured look with a pen. It really helps elevate your piece to the next level. But here on the screen, I'm showing you some of the basic hatching techniques that you can practice and start to learn more about. I'm showing some short vertical lines, some cross hatching. There's also short diagonal lines, which is a great way to add more movement to your piece. There's cross hatch diagonal. You could also just use circles. That's always really fun, or dots. And my personal favorite would be scribble hatching. It's just very chaotic, but in a really lovely kind of way. And there's also plenty more hatching techniques that you could do. If you'd like to hear more about them, I could do another video on it. Just let me know in the comments below. This next tip might seem a little bit obvious, but I think it's still really important to go over and just be mindful about. And that would be to always start with a sketch, with a pencil sketch, that is. Sketching is a really good way to figure out exactly where you want this piece to go, and that way you're not inking without a plan. And once you're done inking over the pencil sketch, you could always just go back and erase it later. Now, I would not recommend you doing what I just did on screen because I was not patient enough and I did not let the ink dry fast enough, and when I came in with my eraser, it smudged it all over the place. So don't do what I did. For my final tip, I'd like to share with you some ways to fix mistakes. These are my top 2 favorite ways. The first one is to use a white pen. And my second way to fix mistakes is to grab a pair of scissors and kind of scrape off the piece of paper that has the mistake on it. And this works best with thicker papers that have multiple layers in them. Next, you'll take an eraser and you'll kind of erase the part that you scraped off, and it should come off and it should look clean. You'll want to be careful with this one too, because if you cut too much, you could rip a hole into the paper, and if you cut too big of a space, it might be a little obvious that a layer of the paper is missing. Alright, so those are all of my inking tips for this video. There's plenty more stuff that I didn't go over, and if you want to hear more, let me know in the comments below. I can definitely make another video on tips like these. But for now, on to the speed paint. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to talk to you about Inktober and what Inktober really is, in case you haven't heard of it before. Inktober is this monthly drawing challenge during the month of October. It started with the artist Jake Parker. He decided that he wanted to improve his inking skills, and so for the month of October, he made himself ink every single day. And as he shared his works on social media, the event grew bigger and bigger, and now Inktober has become this worldwide event with thousands of artists taking the challenge every year. Now, if you have heard of Inktober and you're up to date with what's been happening recently, I'm just going to very quickly add that with all of the drama that's been going on this year, I'm not really going to make much of an input. For anybody who's wondering, there's allegations that Jake Parker copied off of a different artist's book, and there's plenty of opinions and videos on this, so if you're curious, I would just look into it elsewhere. For me, I don't really support the idea of copying off of anybody's work or cheating, but I felt like the cancel culture on Inktober was a little unfair because I feel that Inktober has become this big community that has extended past Jake Parker's reach. So I still feel like Inktober is something that's fun and a good idea to participate in, especially if you're an artist who's trying to meet more artists and join the community. Now, this year I didn't follow the Inktober prompt lists. I forgot to mention that. So Inktober has an official prompt list every year, and thousands of artists also come up with their own prompt lists. So this year I didn't follow Inktober's because I wasn't really kind of feeling the prompts, but I did find a prompt list by Travelogue that I absolutely loved. It's all cats, and I thought, why not? Cats! So my personal history with Inktober is I have been participating in it since 2017. Now, to be completely honest and transparent, I never actually finished the challenge. My main problem was keeping up with Inktober and midterms, because from 2017 up until this year, I was in college. And October is always like midterm season. So I was always really good at keeping up the daily prompts about halfway through, and then midterms would hit and I just couldn't keep up. So I didn't want to provide any sort of like tips on how to finish Inktober because that wouldn't seem fair. I haven't finished it yet. Maybe this year though, fingers crossed. But I still feel like, you know, with this many years of experience and like 15 inked pieces a year, I still feel like I gained a lot of inking practice along the way. So I hope that the tips that I shared with you earlier were still helpful. This year, I'm trying my best to keep up. I took some large projects for this month, because why not? So hopefully I can finish, and maybe if I do, I'll have an Inktober sketchbook tour to show you guys. So for this piece, I was following Travelogue's prompt list. I kind of already started off a bit behind. The first week of October, although it wasn't, the first 5 days of October were about halfway through a week, and I was juggling quite a few things that week, so I didn't have a chance to start, but I was still really passionate about working on this challenge. So I thought that a fun way to kind of catch up would be to incorporate the first 4 prompts into one piece, and that's what this is. The 4 prompts that I'm working with are Magical Cat, Plant Cat, Candy Cat, and Fluffy Cat. Something really useful too for inking is if you're right-handed, start inking on the left side of the piece and work your way to the right. If you start on the right side and you work your way to the left, there's a higher possibility of smudging. And it's the opposite if you're left-handed. You should start on the right side of your piece and work your way to the left. For this piece, I tried my best to incorporate all of the characters into one space and have them interact with each other, even in small ways. I think I could have done that a bit better with the fluffy cat in the background, but I really like the idea of him being all sleepy. For my magical cat here, I made him a dragon, and my thinking was that he like either sneezed or burped or something, and out came all of this fire, and our poor little cactus plant is in the corner here freaking out, trying not to get burned. For a lot of artists, adding the white finishing touches really brings the piece together, but I feel like for me, it wasn't quite there yet. So I decided to go back and try to keep working on the background, and that's where I tried to add in some of those hatching techniques and sort of bring in some more texture in the back. Okay, everyone. Here's my finished piece. Thank you so much for sticking around up to this point. If you had fun with me today, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And let me know if you'd like to see more Inktober pieces. I'll be posting them up on Instagram, but I could also do more inking speed paints like this. Alright, I'll see you guys next week. Bye!